Hello, 8th grade. Today we are going to be talking about how to find slope using the slope formula. So a few days ago we talked about how to find slope just looking at a graph by finding rise over run was the formula we were using. And we would just count up on the graph and count over on the graph, and we would divide, and that's how we found the slope. Today we're going to do kind of the same thing, just without the graph. So this part right here in purple is our slope formula. Let's make sure we get that written down. That is our slope formula. M stands for slope. I'm not quite sure who decided that, but M stands for slope. So our slope is equal to this y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 thing that doesn't really make sense when we first look at it. So what I want to do, the first thing we need to use our slope formula is we need 2 points. And because we're very creative about naming things, I'm going to name these point 1 and point 2. So we have point 1 and point 2. And how we label these, point 1 is going to have the coordinates x1 and y1, because once again I'm being very creative about naming this. And point 2 gets x2 and y2. Alright, so these are going to be 2 points on our line that we are trying to find the slope of. Doesn't really matter what points they are, so long as we know which one is point 1 and point 2. So what happens here is that all we have to do is we're going to use our formula, and from there we are going to figure out our slope. So let's say, for example, I have the 2 points, point 1, which is going to be 2, 4, and point 2, which is going to be 6, 6. So looking up at the formula, we're going to take y2, which would be the y of our second point, which is going to be the 6 right here. And we're going to subtract y1, which is going to be the y of our first point, which is the 4 right here. And we're going to divide that by x2, which is the x of our second point, a 6, minus x1, the x of our first point, which is going to be a 2. After that, all that's left to do is solve. So we have 6 minus 4 is going to be equal to 2, and 6 minus 2 is going to be equal to 4. That gives us 2 over 4, which we can simplify by dividing the top and the bottom by 2. That gives us a slope of 1 over 2. So that would be a slope of 1/2, or a 1/2 slope. So if you're given 2 points, I know all of you are wondering, what am I supposed to do to figure out which one's point 1 and which one's point 2? If I'm just given 2 points. Most problems you get, you're just going to see 2 points. They're not going to be labeled which one's which. And the answer is it really doesn't matter. So we are going to try this again with one small change. Instead of point 1 here, this is going to be point 2. Instead of point 2 there, this is going to be point 1. So now we're going to try this again. And I have that y2 is going to be the 4. So I have 4 minus y1, which is the 6. So 4 minus 6 divided by x2, which is a 2, minus x1, which is a 6. And that's going to give me 4 minus 6 is negative 2. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. And negative 2 divided by negative 4, the negatives cancel out, and I end up with 2 over 4, which is equal to a 1/2 slope. So we need 2 points, and we definitely need one of them to be point 1, and we need one to be point 2, but it does not matter at all which one is which. So right now, I'm going to write down 2 more points, and I'd like you guys at this point in the video to go ahead and find what the slope of this is. So we have one of the points is negative 4, 4, and the other one is going to be 4, negative 2. So I would like you guys to please solve that one, find the slope of those 2 points, and then just continue in the notes. If you have to pause here, that's okay. Just work on it for me. All right, so another one that we're going to do is if you have a table. So I'm going to write down a table real quick, XY table. X is over here, Y is over there. And our values are going to have an X of negative 5, 10, and 40. And our Y's are going to be 6, 0, and negative 12. 6, 0, and negative 12. So we know that our formula is going to be m for slope. I still don't know why that's m. It just is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So looking here, we have our table, and what we need to do is we need to pick out 2 points. And once again, it does not matter which ones we choose. If I want this to be point 1, that works. I'm going to make that point 1. And let's say I want this one here to be point 2. That'll work as well. But I can pick any 2 points and put them in any order I want. If I wanted this here to be my second point and that to be my first, I could. I'm just picking these 2 points kind of at random. It doesn't matter as long as we have 2 points. So looking at my formula, I start with the y of the second point, which is going to be negative 12. So I have negative 12 minus the y of the first point, which is 6, divided by the x of the second point, which is going to be 40, minus the x of the first point, which is negative 5. So if I solve this out, negative 12 minus 6 is the same as negative 12 plus negative 6. The signs here are the same, so we're adding. 12 plus 6 is 18. Our bigger number here is 12, so we keep its sign, which is negative. So we end up with negative 18. On the bottom, we change this to addition. That's positive. We have 40 plus 5. 40 plus 5 is 45. I'm going to do the long way of simplifying this fraction just so we can get a little bit more time seeing it. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a factor tree of 18 and 45. 18 goes into 3 and 6. 6 goes into 3 and 2. 45 is 9 times 5, and 9 is 3 times 3. So if I want to simplify, all I have to do is cancel out the numbers that are the same in both. So the 3's would go away. I've got 2 3's under the 18 here. I've got 2 3's under the 9. So both of those cancel, and all I'm left with under the 18 is a 2. Under the 45 is a 5. So this 18 will turn into a 2. I have negative 2. Divided by this 45 turns into a 5 over 5. So my slope is negative 2 over 5. Very cool. So we're going to go back to the graph, and we're going to look at how we did it before, and we're going to compare it to how we do it now. So if I have a graph right here with a y-axis and an x-axis, just like that, and let's put a few points on here. 5, that'll work. And let's make us have a line going kinda that way. Awesome. So it intersects the y-axis right here at 0, 2, and it intersects the x-axis right here at 1, 0. So those are our 2 points. And how we would have done this before is we would start by finding the rise, which is going to be 2 going downwards. That would be negative 2. And dividing that by the run would be 1 going over. So that would give us negative 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. Using our slope formula, what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing essentially, but this time using the points. So we're going to start with y2 minus y1. So I need to label my points. Let's call this one here point 2, and that one here point 1, point 1, point 2. So my formula says I should do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is the y of the second point, which is this 2 here. y1 is the y of the first point, which is right there. It's a 0. And we're going to divide by x2, which is the x of the second point, 0, minus x1, which can be right here, and that is a 1. So I end up with 2 minus 0 divided by 0 minus 1, which is going to give me 2 divided by negative 1, which is equal to negative 2. So either way, we get this negative 2 slope. Both ways we do it, they're going to give us the same thing. One way, the first way we did was a lot more visual. And the second way we did it, of course, is a lot more mathematical. So the last thing I want to see us do is we are going to look at the slope of a vertical line. So we talked about that in class a little bit. and we said that a slope of a vertical line, because Bob is going to fall right off of it, he would be undefined. Poor Bob. So I want to show you guys why it's undefined. So we're going to pick two random points on here, go right there and right there, and label this one. Let's make that point 1, and this point 2. Again, it doesn't matter which one's point 1, which one's point 2, just pick. So looking at this, point 1 has coordinates 1 and 3, and point 2 has coordinates 1, -3. Awesome. That should go down here, 1, -3. So looking at our formula, we're going to have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So y2 is going to be the y of our second point, which is -3, minus y1, y of our first point is 3, divided by x2, which is 1, minus x1, which is also 1. Going a little further, -3 minus 3 is -6, divided by 1 minus 1 is 0. That's not good. We cannot divide by 0. That right there is bad. Very bad. We cannot divide by 0. That's not a good thing. So that's why we end up calling this undefined, because we cannot divide by 0. That's going to be our undefined slope. And anytime you have a slope of 0 like that, that means that you're at a vertical line, and that means that we have an undefined slope. So now all I'd like to do is to give you guys a practice problem. So I'm going to give you a table, and I would like you guys to find the slope for me. The table is going to have x and y values. My x values are -4, -2, and 0, and y is going to be -27, -13, and 1. Thank you guys very much for listening. Make sure you find the slope of this at the end of your notes for class, and I'll see y'all in class.